This is my new fidget spinner, and it explodes in 2 minutes and 23 seconds.
Today we're taking a look at another McFarlane Toys product, part of their DC multiverse, the Dark Knight Trilogy movie figures. Well, it is another Batman, from a scene specific to the second movie of the trilogy, The Dark Knight. As it says here on the side of the box, Hong Kong skydive, The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Trilogy. Here at the back, some key art from the movie, the usual shenanigans on the other side. Nothing much at the top other than the Dark Knight Trilogy logo. Here at the bottom, some legalities and whatnot. Let's crack them open and see what we're dealing with. Now here's the figure out of the box, and I gotta say that they really nailed that Bat Bale head sculpt. I'm not gonna go so far as to say that it can't get any better for the price, but it's not so bad at all. I'm not gonna complain because this strongly resembles Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne from the movie, and I can really appreciate all the layers and the volume of the hair, and I can appreciate the way the black and the brown contrast each other. It's got the signature Christian Bale cheekbones and the semi-pursed lips. I love how his eyes are set deep below the eyebrows. It just creates a shadowy effect characteristic to Batman or Bruce Wayne. Apart from that, everything else is the same. He's got a really nice head shape. I love it. From the neck down, it's just a carbon copy of the first release that's part of the Build-A-Bane wave, except that this one doesn't have the cape. Because like I said, this is specific to the skydive scene. So there's really nothing much to talk about the aesthetic, other than the head sculpt. If you own the first release or once owned it, you pretty much know what you're getting with this figure. I don't exactly have the best lighting setup at the moment. In person, the gray is much more prominent. On camera, it looks a little darker. There are some blacks, especially where the panel linings are concerned, where you can also find some texture, as you can see. The belt is painted pretty well, and I do love that sculpted chest emblem. So these are all the accessories that it comes with. We are going to discount the disc stand because that doesn't really do much, and the card because it's just a repetition of the box art, so a bunch of fluff. This is the piece that you attach to his back. In the movie, this is where the glider shoots off of as he jumps off the ledge. It is a glossy black piece, and I do love the way that they molded this. Here is the time bomb launcher, and I gotta say, the form looks nice, but it could benefit from some paint and wash, especially on the black plastic pieces. And on top of that, it is just a floppy mess. Look at how soft that plastic material is. But that's just the trend with McFarlane Toys accessories, so that comes as no surprise. And here's one of the sticky time bombs that he launched onto the glass panel of Lau's office or whatever. That is a strong attention to detail because in the movie that's exactly how long it took for the scene to pan out. From the moment he jumps off the ledge, gliding across buildings all the way to Lau's office, beating up some goons, and finally holding Lau hostage just in time for this bomb to explode, among the rest of the bombs that he planted. Now let's mount this piece to his back, just like so. Oops. He just looks way more complete this way, despite everything he lacks. You really pay homage to the Hong Kong skydive sequence rather than just specific to the scene where he was preparing himself for battle on top of a skyscraper. So he does have a double ball peg, the bigger ball in the neck, smaller ball plugged into the head. That affords his head this much range looking down, that much range looking up, and then some side-to-side movement. McFarlane usually delivers when it comes to head movement, and that is exactly the case here. His arms can go that far going out. The shoulder pauldrons are a soft rubbery piece, and it does get out of the way when you articulate the shoulders. His arm can do a full 360 spin, and then we have a double jointed elbow. Let's see what the torso can do. Not really much moving forward, but definitely better than most McFarlane Toys figures. Way more range going back, even to the backpack piece, so that doesn't cause any hindrance. An incredible side-to-side movement, and with that, you get a very nice roundy motion. There is some bend at the waist, but not really much. Even when combining that with the upper torso joint, it doesn't really afford much range. So yeah, but it does have a twist, so that might help with some posing. And for his legs, that far going out, so that's full-on splits, and you kick forward sufficiently I would say yes. Although the diaper still kind of gets in the way. The diaper piece doesn't really get in the way, but it does stretch out, and that might look like a sore thumb in the future as you keep utilizing that piece of, articulation on the hips. And then we have double jointed knees that offers good range, and he can kick his own bum. Then do we have some thigh swivel? Yeah, you can kind of force it. It is there. It is kind of stiff, but it is there. Well, such is the case with most McFarlane toys. They are kind of stiff. They look stiff, and they move kind of stiff. His hands are attached to these hinge joints that are sculpted to flow well with the rest of the forearms. And that does let you move the hands any way you want. So there's a bit of finagling involved, but it looks good and it functions well. There is a good looking bicep cut. It functions well. And we do have this quasi butterfly joint here, but it's just, double ball pegs with a cap to cover the joints. So, but it does allow for some adjustment posing. Not really much, but it is there. It's hard for him to hold the launcher effectively because of how floppy the material is. So that, in conjunction with the stiffness of the joints and the limited nature of the arm movement, well, it does offer good range, but relative to it holding the weapon, it doesn't really have enough mobility to hold it properly. Because like I said, this is just noodly. It needs to be a bit more firm for him to hold it properly, but you can probably do a better job, but I'm not going to waste so much time doing that, because I can imagine that despite your best effort to have him hold the gun, making him look good doing it has a lot to do with the way you angle him in front of the camera. And the ankles are set up the same way as the wrists, in such that they are molded hinge pieces. So it is essentially the same movement as the ankles. You can get a rocker, and goes back that far, goes forward that much. So perfect range in all directions. And we do have the signature McFarlane Toys toe joints. Perfect placement, but it is a little too loose for it to be useful. For some size comparisons, here he is right next to Azrael. And we also have a much older release, Red Death Batman. Ta-da! Despite the generational differences between these figures, I gotta give it to McFarlane that their scaling is pretty consistent. And then we've got Bring Art's Cloud and Marvel Legends X-Force Deadpool. I'm gonna be reviewing this Cloud along with the rest of the crew, so please stay tuned for that. Some YOLO Park figures, AMK Pro Optimus Prime, and AMK Rhinox. Yep. Everything good. If I were to give this figure a final score, it would be a 7.5 out of 10. It doesn't really do anything special. They could have fully decked him out with more accessories, such as a cowled head sculpt and a cloth cape, and even some plastic gliders that you can attach to his backpack, if not a wired cape to create the illusion that he's gliding across buildings in the dark of the night in pursuit of justice. They gave him an interesting set of accessories, but maybe they could have added more, like punchy hands, open, relaxed hands, so you can pose this figure well beyond the specifics of that Hong Kong skydive sequence. But from what I understand, he does have a platinum variant, which does have the masked or the cowled head and a cloth cape and nothing else. And that probably cost at least twice more than this. So to really have parts to complete the whole skydive sequence, you're gonna have to shell out a lot of money, which is kind of antithetical to collecting DC Multiverse figures, because these are supposed to be, somewhat budget-friendly, collector-grade, mass-produced figures. Variants, repaints, chase figures are okay. That's just part of the whole collecting game, but considering that they've already hiked up the prices of these DC Multiverse figures, I think that we should be getting more. I have no problems with the quality, no qualms with, QC issues, because there really isn't much in the way of QC issues. But in execution, I just feel like it fails to deliver. But that's just my opinion. I'm just saying that these are now $5 more expensive than they used to be. So we should be getting more mileage for what we're paying for these figures. for this figure in particular. But if you already have the first version that's part of the Build-A-Bane, then you're probably going to have fun handling this figure because of the swappability and whatnot. In closing, it does strongly represent an iconic scene from one of the most monumental Batman movies of all time, from a trilogy that to this day remains uncontested. Thanks for watching. Please like, please leave a comment, please subscribe. I want to keep doing this. I love doing this, but some extrinsic motivation would be super helpful.